This is Nick Nielsen, Mad Scientist of Muscle, and what I've got for you today here is a review of a new piece of training equipment from Trainnox called the Tib Bar. Now, this bar in concept is not actually a very new concept. A Tibialis Anterior bar, these have kind of been around in some way, shape, or form for quite a few years. Now, what this does, it allows you to work your Tibialis Anterior muscles, which are the muscles that run on the front of your shins. It does this with leverage, so you can see this shape right here. I'll give you a close-up for you. Now, this pad is where your toes go. This pad is where your heels go. So your heels are going right here, and you're basically doing that to flex up and back, working those tibialis anterior muscles. I'll show you how you do that. So this is what it looks like when you have that set up. Now, obviously, you're going to have weight on there, but that's basically the setup. So, like I said, simple concept, but what this particular piece of equipment does is uses adjustability to allow you to do a whole bunch of different other things with this setup. Now, all the other tibialis anterior pieces of equipment that I worked with before were not nearly this adjustable and not nearly this useful, because what you can do here is, using this thing right here, adjust this height. This goes up and down. It comes completely out too if you want it to come completely out. But this level of adjustability, very effective. You can also, which I found also useful, is pull these pads completely off. So if you want to actually use this for arm exercises, you can actually grip onto here. And not having to use a pad, you can use a pad, but taking that pad off allows you to actually use this as arm training equipment. So what I'm going to do here is not only show you how to use this for proper tibialis anterior training, but you can also use this for leg extension, you can use it for leg curls, you can use it, like I just showed you briefly there, for arm training. You can actually use this for glute training in a way that's going to pretty much get you kicked out of just about any gym you do unless you're using it at home. You'll have to see it to believe it, but it's actually incredibly effective. It's the Zercher power pole exercise. Now, like I said, you're going to have to see this one to believe this one. I'll kind of show it towards the end here once I get through some of the other really quite useful stuff that you can do with this thing. So before I get into those other exercises, what I want to do here is show you a few of the other features that you have with this particular piece of equipment. This is the Olympic sleeve. You can see this right here. You unscrew that, and you can actually pull this part off and use it as a standard bar. So you can use standard plates with this, you can use Olympic plates with this. Either one, I have a lot of Olympic plates, so I found that to be a very good way to go. How you use this is very simple. You put a weight plate on here, comes with a little lockjaw clamp. You put it on there, and you're good to go. Sit on the floor, set your feet under, and make sure your heels are on here. Adjust it to your foot size, and then simply raise it up, like so. Now, one of the things I've actually done, and you'll see this when I'm doing some of the other pieces of, weird exercises that I've got with this piece of equipment, is I've actually moved this plate up towards the end of it, so it gives you even more leverage. So you can load more weight on here, or you can use less weight and kind of move it towards the end of the tibialis anterior equipment. But bottom line, this adjustability and the ability to take the pads off and use it in a variety of different ways really makes this thing stand out.
So these are leg extensions done with a Tib Bar. Now essentially what I've done here is I've set my bench to a slight incline so I can actually get a more full range of motion with this. If I'm setting just on the flat part, I find my feet would hit the ground first, so I raise that end up. And then it's just a matter of setting up just like you would do for tib raises, but then do leg extensions instead. Now, what I've done here is kind of extend the concept and do a leg extension, hold at the top, and then do a tibialis anterior raise at the top while holding. So this really maximizes the extension on the quads and the flexion at the ankles, kind of doubling up on the exercises as you're basically working quads and your shins at the same time. Now this one is a leg curl variation. So you basically use a decline bench. You hook your feet under so that they're on the pads and your feet are actually flat on the barbell plate that's underneath there. You're getting a lot of tension on the stretch part of this. It does kind of ease up as you come to the top, not fully, but it's not quite like a leg curl machine and you're not getting the directional resistance. But this is really focused on getting a really good stretch at the bottom. So really an eye-opener when you first give it a try. Now here comes some of the fun stuff. This is curls with the tib bar. Now as you can see, I've got the post set up so that when I curl up, it hits me right in the forearm, right about the 90-degree point, and that's when the leverage comes into play. So as I'm hitting that angle, that rotation changes and the leverage changes, so I'm actually pulling up and around as I come to the top of the exercise. Now, what I've done in this next one is bring it onto the preacher bench, and this works even better than the standing version of the curl. I've taken the foam pads off of here so I can grab onto it more effectively, but as you can see, once you get a little bit up, that's when that bottom thing that normally your heels would go on hits your forearms, and you use that leverage and create rotational resistance just like a machine rather than just straight up and down. So you're really nailing that top part of the preacher curl with this one, in addition to getting a good stretch at the bottom. Now here comes that weird one that I was talking to you about. This is the power pole squat using the tib bar. This is the Zercher version. So I've got basically my forearms hooked underneath that pad, and I've got the lower heel pad, the heel post, coming into the abdomen. Now you want to make sure you're shortening this up enough so that you're getting a full range of motion in the squat. So you want this to be fairly high up when you're doing the exercise. And one key point, try as much as you can to keep that horizontal part horizontal. So don't let the weight tip forward. I do recommend doubling up on the collars on this one, just in case you do tend to tip forward as you're doing it. I've got 100 pounds on here. Double up on the collars, make sure they're very solidly on there. I did experience a tipping and the plate sliding off, so make sure you get those double up on the collars. But the exercise is phenomenal for hitting the glutes, hitting extension, full hip extension at the top of the range of motion, and I'll do a more detailed analysis of this exercise in a future video as well.
Alright, so as you can see, there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do with this very simple piece of equipment. The ability to adjust here, the ability to take these pads off, the ability to move weight out. There's basically a whole ton of stuff you can do. I'm just kind of scratching the surface of this. I've been messing around with this for a few months now, and this is just a few of the things that I've come up with. I'll be sharing a few more of these as time goes on. Now, in terms of overall quality, this thing is not going to break. Highly durable. This piece, this Olympic sleeve, is plastic, but I don't anticipate this ever breaking. You really have to try to break it in order to break it. This is solid steel. This frame is solid steel. This knob, plastic bit with solid steel on there. High density foam. Literally, you have to really throw this thing around and run over it with a truck to break it. So in terms of value, high value, you're going to get a lot of usage, a lot of years out of this piece of equipment. I would say this would even fit right into the commercial gym getting heavy use. Like I said, I really don't see this thing breaking. So do I recommend this? Absolutely. You can use this fantastically well for tibialis anterior training, but for home gym training, there are a lot of things you can do with it that's going to really extend the usability of this thing, and some things that you can't even really do with other pieces of equipment. So well worth the money, and again, this is the Tib Bar from Trainnox.